if quantum computing actually could work, the world as we know it would make no sense.
Yo guys, welcome back to the Orange Pill Order. I'm Thomas and today's guest is the highest level in cybersecurity. Most Bitcoiners come at this from the money side or the tech side, but our guest today comes at it from a completely different angle. And he spent over a decade protecting the systems that keep the lights on, power grids, pipelines, refineries, the stuff that if it goes down, everyone knows about it. He's also an author of the book Defending Bitcoin Industrial Grade Cybersecurity for the Monetary Grid. He's the co-founder of Bitcoin Infinity Media with Knut, of course, and he co-founded BTC Hell, the first Bitcoin conference in the Nordics. And he does all of this from Helsinki, Finland, which he moved to partly because of the metal scene out there. So please welcome Luke de Wolf.
Hi, Thomas. Thanks for having me. Great introduction as well. The metal tidbit, it definitely was a part of my moving over to Finland. But yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here. It was great meeting you in a couple of conferences recently. So excited to be having this conversation.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming on. But before we get into all the Bitcoin and cybersecurity and all the deep stuff, I have to start with the metal because obviously, it's one of my favorite things. And obviously, you moved from Canada to Finland, and one of the reasons was the metal scene. And I kind of need the whole story on that. How does metal end up being one of the reasons you pick up your entire life and move like halfway across the world?
Perfect. I love it. Well, okay. So, being a metalhead for, 20 plus years at this point, and kind of something drew me to that I'm sure everyone who's into the genre can relate to some element of finding some part of your identity, something like this. But I always really liked a lot of the bands from the Nordics, specifically subgenres. Finland's pretty famous for its some of its say more eclectic metal, but there's more mainstream stuff, Children of Bodom, things like this. My wife and I coincidentally met at after separate Children of Bodom concerts, different cities, but we lived in the same city. That's a slightly longer story, but we met after that, and we were happy to bond over that we had seen the same band just recently. And Finland's also got some interesting things that bands that play with the accordion and the violin, like Korpiklaani. I don't think you can see my shirt, but that's what I ended up wearing tonight. So I've really been into that sort of music and other stuff from around the Nordics, like the black metal in Norway. That's some pretty fun stuff. My wife and I, we visited Norway before we visited Finland, and went to see all of the biggest spots in Norwegian black metal history, like one of the churches that got burned down in Bergen, Norway, and say the what was it? It was like a record store in Oslo that a lot of the Norwegian metal scene kind of came up in. So that was all pretty much a prelude to that. We had wanted to spend some time in Finland, the Nordics, just live somewhere else, but COVID hit, and we'd planned a trip out to the region, but had to cancel that. And then I got the opportunity to transfer with my job, and the short of it is that we just decided to go on an adventure, my wife and I, and it's not like the metal music was the only thing, but it was a big help, and of course went to tons of concerts, festivals, this sort of thing. The first few years being here, again, it was COVID, so it wasn't as many as it could have been, and coincidentally enough, the singer of Children of Bodom died just before we came, so that was like big news in the community. We went to visit a bar that his old bandmates set up in Espoo, the city next to Helsinki, where that band is from, and so they had some memorabilia from him and all this, and so just lots of things coming together from my life, my personal life, that led to Finland being an attractive place to go spend some time, and now it looks to be pretty permanent. No plans to leave. Just moved into a new place here. So yeah, thinking that that's pretty much a good enough start on the metal music side of things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's awesome. Obviously, the music as well, but of course, all of Scandinavia is beautiful. It's incredible scenery and everything around you, all the nature.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I love it. I mean, right now I pretty much moved out outside of Helsinki a little bit and pretty much live in nature now, and it's really nice out here. And I mean, I come from a part of Canada that where the winters are really cold and lots of snow. It gets some relief due to being near the mountains. They get some warm air sometimes, but yeah, the winters are less harsh and the nature is fantastic. So it's really a nice place to live. The darkness is a little bit it takes a little bit of getting used to. I think the UK actually isn't that. Say it's not so far south as other parts of Europe, for example, and most of Canada and the U.S. is further south than that. But yeah, it does take some getting used to that. Like the shortest days of the year are 4 hours, and right now, I mean, I don't know, sundown is still another hour and a half for me. It's just after 9 p.m. right now, so it's yeah, long days, but it's nice. I like the long days.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we do get the difference between summer and winter is definitely massive in the UK. But 4 hours there, yeah. I mean, that's I think that's a different sort of level than we're on. But back onto the metal, what are we specifically talking about genre wise? So, what do you like? What are the bands you listen to? Give me the bands, and be honest. Like, is there any kind of black metal stuff that the average person wouldn't listen to, like Slipknot or any of those ones?
Well, okay. If we're talking about black metal specifically, I mean, I don't think the average person is listening to any of that. But I mean, I'm a fan of the classics. Burzum is still, I think, my top favorite from black metal, and then just on the quality of the music, the guy is a bit crazy, but I still have that on playlists. Um, Older Gorgoroth is fun. I like a band called Taake, Taake. I like that stuff, but from maybe kind of a little bit less dark fare from Finland, for example. There's Finntroll, Korpiklaani, Ensiferum, folk metal. These kind of things. Another strand that you could maybe pick up on if you read the introduction to my book or anything like this is I did a podcast on Norse mythology, Finnish mythology for a while there. By the end of it, we had 53 episodes, which was pretty good. But nowadays at 200 plus with Bitcoin Infinity show, that's looking like a smaller number. But at the time, it was a lot of fun and. My partner and I, we put a lot of work into it, and yeah, I've always had a little bit of a thing for connecting to the roots of these sorts of things. I was really fascinated with mythology and just understanding that stuff, and music that goes along with that played a big role. So a lot of these groups I'm talking about take a lot of inspiration from Finnish, Norse mythology, whatever. Um, so yeah, the main genres that I'm into are kind of this folk metal, black metal type stuff. But I've also, I mean, I listen to all kinds of music these days. Almost anything that's playing in Finland, I'll listen to because it just helps to keep the language in my head. Because Finnish is a bit of a different one, but um, yeah, so I listen to all kinds of things, and I listen to kids' music a lot these days. My 2-year-old son likes a lot of different things, but we still leave some of the metal music in the playlists, and he can actually growl pretty well. We never taught him to do that, but he'll just start. Actually, there's a song by and I mean this is not metal at all, but in Eurovision the Swedish entry for I think it was last year was actually a band from Finland because half of the not half, well about 10% of the country speaks Swedish. It's a little less than that even, but it's the second official language, and so the entry from Sweden was actually from Finland, but it was about going to sauna, which is a really big thing here. You might know, and well, so the chorus goes 1, 2, 3 sauna, and so they would say 1, 2, 3, and he would growl sauna, and it's just the cutest thing. So
Oh,
yeah,
that is great. Yeah. No,
big
that is
big
good.
music differences. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, you'll have to get him into all of the metal stuff, and then he'll start singing at Rokomoto soon, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, give him another 14, 15 years, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. I mean, the thing that I think about with all the metal stuff, I mean, metal kind of has the ethos around it, and it's kind of intensity and doing things your own way and not really caring about what other people think or mainstream think, and kind of building real communities. Do you think I mean, there's something metalhead about all of the Bitcoiners, really? Because I mean, it feels like a lot of them kind of have that sort of mindset.
Yeah, totally. I've enjoyed being in metal subcultures over the years. It's always interesting to get into groups of people who are into that, and yeah, it's a lot more common up here in Finland. I think that people will be wearing band shirts just casually, kind of thing, and gigs are a little more well attended. But back in Canada, it was definitely a little more of a subculture thing. But you get to know people, and yeah, building all agreeing that kind of the mainstream stuff is a little bit lame, and you're in on something special. I enjoy that. I've definitely used kind of metal music as a way of, well, maybe rebellion is the right word to a certain extent, but maybe more so as just an outlet. It's something that doesn't filter its emotions, something like this, and you can find all sorts of things in the space. So, and yeah, similarities to Bitcoin, like yeah, Bitcoin conference isn't exactly the same thing as a metal conference, as a metal concert. Sorry, but yeah, you do know that you share something in common with everyone you meet there. So that kind of takes away some of the social. Say it's an instant icebreaker sort of thing. You can always talk to someone at a metal show, same as you can talk to someone at a Bitcoin conference. So yeah, I can see that there's parallels there.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. So, going back to even before all the metal and everything, before you found Bitcoin, before the book, you grew up in Calgary and studied computer science, but also you had an internship and oil and gas pipeline, and you realized that you'd rather secure physical systems than write code. What was that moment? Why did that click?
Sure. So yeah, this goes back to, and this is from the introduction in defending Bitcoin for sure. So where I started my career, the oil and gas sector in Canada is a bit of a unique thing. Canada, well, I shouldn't be too hyperbolic about this, but Canada really economically depends on the oil and gas sector, and specifically the region where I'm from, Alberta. I really don't identify with being Canadian in sort of a patriotic way, through years and years and years of the rest of the country undervaluing and underappreciating the place where I'm from, and the industry that I worked in, that everyone I knew worked in, and we all would take great pride in creating something that is necessary for human flourishing. There's no such thing as a low energy, high prosperity society, right? You need energy to have a society that, well, what we would consider in the Western world to be normal. You know, the lights work. We have water. We have shelter. These sorts of things. It all requires energy at some point. So the beginning of my career was at a really tough time for the oil and gas industry. This was back in the Obama years, actually, and Barack Obama canceled a pipeline from the company that I worked for, Trans Canada Pipelines, and he canceled a proposed pipeline through the United States. There was a lot of controversy with that, but the thing was, everyone in my city in Calgary knew that a company could just give everyone a layoff notice and fire them at any moment, because even if you had a good contract or whatever it was, the economic conditions just made it so that they could do that. So there's almost no such thing as job security. Everything was really, really tough. But the thing I lucked out in was that I was working for a good company that produced something, provided a service. They built and maintained and operated pipelines, which is by far the safest way to transport oil and gas over land is through a pipeline. Trains, if they derail, there can be all sorts of issues. I mean, there have been fatalities, things like this. It's much slower, much more expensive. So I was happy to be working for a company that was doing something real. And computer science was just my best guess at finding something to study that might actually result in a job, a career. I'd been interested in all sorts of things, languages, history, this and that. So, but none of those things had any career path outside of academia, basically. And I mean, as an aside, I definitely wouldn't recommend virtually anyone these days, especially anyone younger than me, to be going into academia seriously these days, unless you don't have to worry about money, which most of us do. But yeah, so what it was for me was that I enjoyed working on something that was real. It wasn't just sort of the software running some kind of IT system or something like this. I was out there making connections, making sure that things were running. I administered these control systems, and that's what these are called, the systems that control the physical things that interact with, say, pipelines, electrical grids, factories, this sort of thing. And the control systems that operate them are what I worked with and administered. The role I had was again kind of lucky from my perspective, that they gave a lot of responsibility to their interns, myself included, and I was basically able to do everything that senior people would do, just with supervision, of course. But they were very good at training me up. I didn't end up working with them long term for a couple of reasons, but I was always on good terms. Still consider many of the people from those days to be good friends. And it took a little while before I moved into the cybersecurity side of things, but that's a kind of a natural step, though, going from working directly on some kind of a system to learning about the security while on the job a little bit, and then eventually transitioning into being full-time on the security side of things. So to answer your question a little more directly, though, is just that I enjoyed working with something real, and I didn't know that something like that existed, that it was an option. And as soon as I found it and realized that was a career path I could take, I jumped on it. So that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going back to what you were saying about the cybersecurity, for people my age who think cybersecurity just kind of means antivirus software and strong passwords, what does your actual job look like? Like, what are you protecting, and who are you protecting it from?
Sure. So my career was a little more interesting a few years ago when I was still in consulting. I've since you can kind of split those things up into. I work now for a company that makes stuff, and I'm helping to protect their assets and all this. But I used to work for a consulting company where I would just go between different companies and get to do cool stuff for a little while, something that they're paying us to do externally, and that was more fun because it was something new all the time, more interesting. So I think that's a little more fun to highlight. And so what I would do is there are so many things in the cybersecurity realm, and what you see day to day, as you say, antivirus, strong passwords, this sort of thing. And I mean, I think for generations that have grown up on the internet and with technology, cybersecurity might be second nature to a certain extent, but that also means you might not be aware of everything else that's going on under the hood, which I think is what you asked exactly. So the thing there is that the breadth of what you have to pay attention to with cybersecurity is so huge. I don't know how to go into deep level on absolutely everything. But the thing that I do know how to do is I know a lot about all of the little things like mile wide, inch deep is kind of one of the terms for the certifications that I have, which are the common ways of proving that you have kind of the knowledge base. So what I would do is I would go to various companies, and they would have some kind of issue, or they would have some sort of something that they wanted to improve, so to say. So, for example, I would go and do assessments on a company where they would have. I would go through all of these questions, asking them, "Hey, do you take backups? Do you have this level of say security in this area? Do you think about sorry, it's hard to take this from kind of the area of say my internal jargon, so to say, industry jargon, to something that I can try and make relatable. But and I know it probably is sounding boring too, but
Oh,
the more fun stuff from earlier on, because you're always a little more hands on the earlier you are in your career. At least that's been my experience. I was part of the say the incident response team, and this is probably the more fun stuff. So again, companies have all sorts of tools that us individuals we might not be aware of. So there'll be whole suites of things, stuff to prevent data from leaking out of the corporation. They have, it's not just antivirus, it's intrusion detection and prevention systems that live on all the company machines, things like this, so that you can remotely see that some kind of virus is getting in, and someone like me can go in and click to take the internet connection away. And I had to do that once. That was an interesting time. It was we had an on-call rotation, so typically there would be some kind of rotation for someone to get the call if it's the middle of the night. I was on call. And something came through at the middle of the night that turned out to be ransomware. This type of virus that tries to wipe your computer and take a ransom for it, often in Bitcoin as well. But we stopped it in time. That's the beauty of some of these tools is stop it in time. Maybe to try to make this a little more, say, practical a little bit, is that there are a lot of phases of cybersecurity that are about putting up defenses. Defense in depth is a sort of a theme that I return to in defending Bitcoin. You should never depend on only one thing to save you. You should have layers of defenses. So that's akin to having a strong password is one layer, but then also have like a multi-factor authentication app on your phone or something like this as another layer. Maybe your email account also has some kind of protection, so that you can't just change the password on your email address without doing a couple of extra steps. All of these things, they add a layer of inconvenience, but they keep you more secure. So you want to have those layers. So you set up all of those layers, right? But if something happens, that's called an incident. And when an incident occurs, you have to respond to it. And then there's a whole phase of responding and recovering from an incident happening. So throughout the entire life cycle of cybersecurity, so to say, knowing about all of these steps and what to do when something happens, that's basically my job. But it's pulling out from all sorts of these areas, and being agile and flexible, and knowing a lot about knowing a little about a lot of different things, and then diving deeper when I need to specialize in something. So I don't think I answered your question all that well, to be honest, but that's a
no,
little
you
bit about
did.
what
You
I
did.
do.
That was a good answer. that was very interesting because I obviously everyone knows like cybersecurity in general, but it's nice hearing the details of it and to understand like actually what someone who works in cybersecurity actually does.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And well, and these days I'm a little more mundane, but the company that I work with makes engines that power AI data centers and things like this. And so I just feel good about protecting something that has a real effect in the world. And maybe these AI data centers is something that's competing with Bitcoin to a certain extent, but not really. I don't think that's actually the case. So. Lots of tie-ins, but my day job, so to say, is something I'm proud to be doing, and I've moved far enough with it that I'm now more of a manager type, and I get to move things along in a little bit more of a slow way. But that's just career progression, I guess. And at the moment, I need something that's a little more stable with young kids and doing some of this Bitcoin stuff on the side. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it does sound great. Yeah, going back to when you said you were moving from Calgary, I mean, you found Bitcoin during the COVID lockdowns, of course, right around the time that you were moving from Canada to Finland, and obviously that's a lot of life-changing things happening all at once. So, what was kind of going through your head, and how did Bitcoin fit into that whole reinvention?
yeah, sure. I mean, the biggest thing with it was just that I needed to find a different way to store my wealth, basically, and it wasn't a lot at the time, but we had to take everything that we owned in Canada and basically move it over to Finland, and so the thing with that was all the say the investments, the banking, whatever. We had to figure that out, and I'm just a curious person generally. This was back, I mean, back in that era was when Bitcoin was surging. So so I'd been listening to a lot of podcasts. There had been some crypto-ish people on, for example, the Lex Friedman podcast, and one of them was Robert Breedlove, and that was really positive because yeah, that opened the entire rabbit hole for me. Michael Saylor on Robert Breedlove, and I mean, you can have whatever opinion you like about Michael Saylor, but he brought a lot of people into to Bitcoin. I know there are some people that think that a lot of the Bitcoiners that came in as a result of, say, this more philosophical money angle are not the same thing as the type of people who came in the sort of early cypherpunk era, but that's Bitcoin adoption. People are going to come at it from different perspectives, and so the whole thing for me was it was just a light bulb moment, and it was partially coincidental. I probably needed to be primed to say take this all in, but I was just looking for some way to somewhere to put my money in the middle of all this craziness. In investing separately hadn't worked out all that well, and now suddenly I had to pull out everything and move it across the world. And I didn't end up taking all of it over with Bitcoin, but some of it. Yeah, that was just a good lesson in that this is an easier way to move money from one place to another. And then it was all just education. I remember listening to tons and tons of podcasts and reading a whole lot and going from there. But yeah, the a lot of life changes all at once. Yeah, pretty much turned my entire life upside down. You can say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, that is very interesting about what you said, how you kind of had to use it because it was the easiest form to transfer your money, basically. Because yeah, I think a lot of people find Bitcoin when they have to use it rather than just stumbling across it. They're looking for something that they absolutely need, and they go and then they discover it just how you did.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because I certainly see it here in Finland in the Nordics that adoption is harder because people don't understand
Yeah.
why. People don't see the need for it because life is pretty good. Finland is the happiest country in the world 9 years running, and I mean I can understand why. And the thing with it is that if people aren't actively looking for ways out of the system, if they're not already asking some of those same questions, like what's going on with inflation and all this, yeah, it's harder to get people in there. And I think for me, I mean, I probably could have, if I had done some more research early on, I probably could have found Bitcoin earlier because inflation never made sense to me. I could never understand why there has to be this thing called inflation. Why does it have to go up by 2% per year, et cetera, et cetera? And so educating people and helping them find Bitcoin is yeah, a challenge. And people doing work in developing countries. I mean, yeah, that's really great work. A lot of these people don't have a lot of wealth to save, but if they make the connection that you can put your money into Bitcoin and you can save your wealth long term, uh, and in some cases avoid massive financial catastrophe, right? It's great to see. So I'm just trying to help with adoption here and yeah, worldwide. But it's difficult if people don't know to ask the right questions, as you say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what I find with younger people. I mean, they don't particularly like Bitcoin or are interested in it at all because kind of at this age they don't have a family to look after, so they're not really thinking, about the financial system, and because of that, then they don't feel the need for Bitcoin, and then yeah, they don't. Sometimes they don't listen as well, but it's all about getting through, and I am slowly.
Yeah, and I think the thing there, and to people your age and your generation and all this, like I mean, it's tough, man. Like I can't imagine growing up in your era, and and I'm not that much older, but yeah, I definitely understand that I was born and had part of my childhood before smartphones ever existed. I had a period of time where I didn't have access to computer, access to the internet, things like this, and all, and so the world has just completely changed, right? And I mean the the pace of technological shift. AI is something else. It can really do so many things, and I hope younger people don't choose to offload their thinking capacity to the AI. Use it as a tool, yes, but yeah, don't let your thinking capacity atrophy, right? And same thing with Bitcoin, like, and thinking longer term. It's just so hard when the world seems really bleak and hopeless, and if you're plugged into all of these social medias, right, and mainstream media for that matter, like there's a new catastrophe every day, and there's new things that you're supposed to worry about and get you down. And what's the point of having kids? What's the point of growing something that's supposed to last decades, right? And yeah, I mean, yeah, I was yeah, a teenager, early 20s as well, and uh, I go back to that I just had to figure out how to I had to figure out how to grow up, like figure out how to take responsibility for myself, and without those steps, I never would have found Bitcoin, never would have had a family, never would have really uh, launched properly. So Bitcoin isn't the total solution. It's part of a mindset, a collection of mindset shifts that I think are really important for younger people to take and understand. And yeah, I mean, good for you for finding Bitcoin and for being a voice in the space for people your age, because yeah, it's hard to get across these things to when you're young and aren't thinking with those horizons. I know that was the case for me.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, just all about getting through to everyone, not just the younger people, because I think obviously it affects the younger people the most because they're going into this world. But of course, you know, we want to orange pill as many people as possible because everyone kind of deserves to understand and know, really.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that too, because this is the key for Bitcoin in all ways as I see it, is that get more people to understand, put your savings into Bitcoin, use it when you can. I mean, in Prague and in other places where I run these book booths with Knut. We only accept Bitcoin in cash. We don't do fiat payments at all, and we understand a little bit that yeah, some people might not have a wallet set up or anything like this, and therefore we will sort of reluctantly accept cash as well, the local cash, but. Yeah, we want people to spend their Bitcoin, and you know the number of times I've heard someone say, "Yeah, I don't want to spend my good money." I always say back to them, "Well, spend and replace, spend it, and then buy some more Bitcoin. You were going to anyway, something like this, and it's just the same thing as using fiat if you wanted to do that, and but yeah." Bringing more people into the system, and Bitcoin can handle it definitely. Like we're a long way away from having blocks full of financial transactions and high fees just from high adoption. We've got good layer 2 capacity. I mean, we can't onboard the entire world tomorrow, but bringing people on one at a time, organic growth. That's something that Bitcoin can handle, and there are great developers building other technologies and tools to help us scale better. So
Yeah,
I'm optimistic.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, just helping the people. I mean, that's kind of what you and Canute are doing in the Bitcoin Infinity show. I mean, and a whole media and publishing company. I mean, for someone who just started out volunteering to help with marketing, how did that snowball into co-founding a company? And what's the lesson there for a young person who wants to break into something like that but feels like a nobody right now?
Oh, I mean, I'll start with the lesson. Just say yes to everything, and do that for a while, and it'll start to compound for sure. I did a talk in Riga. Is that 2 years ago now? Yeah, two, because yeah, time flies a little bit. But it was at the Noob Day at the Balticani Badger, and it was all about just yeah, say yes to everything. My personal story is basically just getting into the space and finding ways to contribute and taking on more whenever I could, and the whole thing with starting this publishing company, and we're really kind of a publishing light company. We only just recently brought on titles that aren't from myself or Knut, but our entire goal was to basically do self-publishing in a really professional way, all the way up to having like a proper company for it and all of the infrastructure there. But we keep costs super low. We print everything on demand, which means we make a little bit less per book, but it also means we don't have to have warehousing and overhead from all that. But what happened was there was just a dispute with Knut's a previous publisher, and I won't go into the details with that. It's all been sorted, but he decided with me, but he decided really that he needed to be independent and have full control over his books, and I was right there to help get it going. I'd learned how to do a few of the things that sort of a publisher does, and we figured out the rest along the way because Knut had also done some self-publishing previously and all this, so just kind of fell into it. But I mean, for my book, for example, I did everything except the cover design and the diagrams inside. I'm not a visual person so well, but everything else I did myself essentially because I just learned how to do it and how to put this out properly. So, and now working with a few other authors. Max Hillebrand was the latest one. Yoni Appelberg as well, and we've got a few others potentially coming, and I mean, yeah, I'm not out here to make like a ton of money off of my friends on this. I, profit split is mostly what we do with folks, and I'm just happy to help in a lot of cases because it doesn't like many skills when things. When you do it more often, you get better at it and it goes faster. So I just like doing it and helping, and if people get value back from what I do, I'm happy to, yeah, sort of split it up that way. That's my philosophy with this, and I think Knut would agree that it's good to provide value to others, and hopefully they'll give you some value back. Maybe that's the other lesson too, is just value yourself properly, but be willing to help other people. The intangibles of doing things for others who you like and who like you, it all comes back. Maybe that's something like karma, but
Yeah.
it's real. I've experienced it dozens, hundreds of times now in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everyone kind of owes thanks to you and Knut for all the help you've done. But let's actually talk about your book. I mean, the subtitle is Industrial Grade Cybersecurity for the Monetary Grid. So obviously, you call Bitcoin a monetary grid, like the power grid. Why that comparison? Why does thinking about a Bitcoin like a piece of critical infrastructure kind of unlock the unusual number go up conversation misses?
Yeah, so I'll be honest that the subtitle is a little bit of bait to get people who aren't so familiar with Bitcoin to take a look at the thing. And explicitly, what I'm out to do with defending Bitcoin is to have one, a cybersecurity book for Bitcoiners, but also a book that people who are in my industry, cybersecurity or tech more generally, who are unfamiliar with Bitcoin, that they can take a look at it and say, okay, this is something familiar, and give them some grounding, and use language that's familiar to them. So I would say for Bitcoiners, for most of the audience of your show, this is going to be a book that has an entirely different vocabulary language to what you might be familiar with in, say, Saifedean's books or Knut's books, or more technical stuff like Mastering Bitcoin. The cybersecurity angle is a different one. To the monetary grid, though, that's not totally out there. It's tying into basically the role that mining has in the modern day electrical system. It's getting more and more an important part of systems like this. Just the way that. For example, that mining can do demand response, the ability for, say, Bitcoin mining to turn on and off at the needs of the electrical grid to provide stability. Uh, the funny thing is, again, my fiat job company makes effectively the same thing from the opposite direction. It's power plants, small engines for power plants that can turn on really quickly. So it's kind of the opposite side of the spectrum there. But Bitcoin mining can do it much faster, though. Machines can turn on in an instant. They can just stop hashing or start again extremely quickly. And so this provides an exceptionally good demand response capability, and it's becoming more and more important for electrical grids. But there are other use cases for Bitcoin mining, such as, for example, in Finland and in other cold places, reusing the heat from Bitcoin mining is becoming more and more prevalent and important, because the mining, it can financially sustain itself, but then also have another thing that they can essentially sell back to the say, well, the municipal service that provides the heated water, things like this, and that can lower costs for people in these areas as well, which is a benefit for society that people might not see yet. And there are lots of these things. It's not only mining, though. It's kind of a analogy, is not the word I'd like to use, I guess, but that Bitcoin is well, effectively the shorthand is that Bitcoin is becoming a form of critical infrastructure that we've never seen before. It's a payment system, but it's also connected in a symbiotic way to electrical systems, and only becoming more and more embedded in that regard. And so my whole point is that we treat critical infrastructure a certain way in cybersecurity. We handle it in a different method than cybersecurity for IT systems or personal cybersecurity. And so I got sort of the light bulb moment to apply a framework that is effectively based on what we do in industrial cybersecurity to Bitcoin, and everything just fell into place from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with, yeah, Bitcoin has that symbiotic kind of relationship with other electronic stuff, and it's obviously very important that we keep that secure and all of that. And I mean, the book walks through the 10 specific threats to Bitcoin, everything from quantum computing to mining, centralization, or key management. Without making kind of everyone go and read all 10 chapters, which threat do you think people underestimate the most?
Ooh, that's a very good question. Underestimate. Well, there's right now a lot of say on the Twitter verse and all this X, Bitcoin social media. There's all this stuff going on about, say, this BIP 110. I don't know how much you've gone into it with your audience or things like this, but the underestimate part that kind of comes out of that is what is it, what happens when Bitcoin changes? I think that's the thing that probably answers your question the best. What happens when Bitcoin changes, and what happens if there are unforeseen consequences? So this is a little deep, but the the last major upgrade to Bitcoin was Taproot in 2021, and Taproot it introduced a couple of bugs that had the unintended consequence of making it a lot easier to embed arbitrary data onto Bitcoin, or at least it created vectors that were easier to exploit. And the thing was, these were potentially actually intentional design decisions that the development community in Bitcoin thought was going to stimulate adoption on Bitcoin or make it easier to do interesting things in terms of scripting. And the end result has been a lot of community controversy. Again, I don't know how much you've covered this with your audience, but there is a soft fork that's going to activate in about a month from the date of recording here, and whether or not that causes a chain split or it just activates successfully or whatever it is, we have no idea. There's something really uncertain about to happen on Bitcoin, and so I think the thing that the average person probably underestimates is what can happen when Bitcoin development is done in sort of a controversial way and doesn't take the steps to see what unintended consequences there might be. And maybe to take this one step further is that anything that makes Bitcoin more extensible in terms of scripting capabilities, it has the potential to add vulnerabilities, attack surface. That's the cybersecurity term, and so I advocate for really conservative Bitcoin development, and I mean that just in terms of go slow, really make sure you don't break things, fix current bugs, do optimizations, sure, but yeah, try to keep Bitcoin in the same state as far as possible. And I definitely think we've reached some point where maybe the rules of Bitcoin, the protocol rules of Bitcoin, were expanded a little bit too much, and a tightening might be beneficial. That's kind of what's going on with this soft fork stuff. But no matter what happens, that if you are just a Bitcoiner, don't think that you can just ignore anything that goes on in say development discussions or things like this. Get involved, stay aware. Bitcoin is all about responsibility, right? You're taking responsibility for your finances in a way that if you're used to the legacy system, you've never had to do before. And the responsibility extends in many ways. So what I've walked through in defending Bitcoin is, you say, so it's 10 chapters, yes. I had to draw the line somewhere. I can't say that this is the comprehensive list of all the threats to Bitcoin. And I also don't want to be a fear monger or anything like this. I'm not saying that the sky is falling and you need to know about all of these 10 things. Maybe I could sell more books if I said that, but the end message is optimistic. Like, this is all stuff that you can do and you can get a handle on. So what the typical Bitcoiner might be underestimating is just how much you can get involved. Like, pay attention to this stuff and don't let Bitcoin change without you letting it, without you understanding and making your voice heard.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very good advice, because I even know a lot of people in the Bitcoin space who, you know, don't even understand BIP 110, for example, and thinking that, I mean, in that situation, it's important that we kind of do learn and understand it, so kind of you know what's going on in your future. I think it's very important. I mean, at the end of the day, this is your own finances, so I mean, it's very much in your interest to know what is going on.
Exactly, and I mean, the whole thing with it is that it's not really to say that you should get involved and be on Twitter all the time and pick a side, whatever it is. But run a node. That's important. Use it to validate your own transactions. If you are a merchant, like if you sell any kind of goods and services, run it through a node that you control. The ideal thing would be to use like something what I got behind me there. I've got a start9 node whirring away there. But I've also used nodes that are in the cloud because it's easier to keep them running. Like for me to be sure that they're going to be running at all times. You know, there could be an internet issue at my house or something like this, and so. So the ideal thing would be running a node that you control the physical hardware, but cloud is also okay. Run a node and accept Bitcoin through your own node and validate your transactions with your rules. And this goes a long way to decentralizing the network and making sure that the network is following the rules that you agree to. And I'm choosing my language very carefully here because the thing with it is that Bitcoin is always what you decide it is for you, but it only stays Bitcoin if you are in agreement with the rest of the network. That doesn't mean you have to agree 100% with everyone who is also using Bitcoin. It just means that you all have to agree that the next block that comes in on the rules that block has to follow, right? And sort of to the BIP 110 side of it, a soft fork by definition means that it's a tightening of the rules, and all previous nodes will be compatible with that soft fork by default. So if the new rules get followed without controversy, that's just going to become the new rules of Bitcoin. But people can so people can object to the soft fork on whatever grounds, but if it changes the behavior of the network and becomes what everyone agrees on, you don't really have a right to complain. So this is just what I'm saying is that your node is your voice on the network and your only means of saying your opinion on what should happen on the network. But ultimately, consensus is something that we all have to come to together, or else it stops being Bitcoin. So that's just very lightly. I don't know how much you want to dig into that topic, but yeah, it's a tough one. That's going to apply to all changes in Bitcoin forever. So that's just general advice.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the insight and just kind of helping my audience kind of understand what is going on, because Yeah, again, a lot of people don't know, and I think you've explained it nicely and simply there so that everyone can understand, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, on this particular issue, uh, all I advocate for is that you do your own research. And I've gone back and forth a little bit. My stance was previously that okay, maybe don't try to go ahead with this fork because it could cause some issues. But now it's happening. It's going to happen. And uh, my view as a risk manager side of things is that BIP 110 activating smoothly is going to be the least chaotic thing that could happen on the network. All of the bad scenarios in terms of uncertainty with a chain split would be from, yeah, if BIP 110 fails to activate and then we have no idea what's going to happen. So let's see. But that's my view as a cybersecurity professional risk manager that in my view the least chaotic option would be for BIP 110 to activate smoothly. So do with that information what you like.
Okay, thank you. That's great information. Going back onto those risks, could you explain for my audience that kind of wouldn't understand it? What is the huge risk of quantum computing?
Mm. Okay, so quantum computing, the main thing that people are concerned about is that quantum computing has a way of changing or say bypassing the mathematical structures that we rely on with modern computing. And the biggest way it can attack Bitcoin is through a means of deriving the private key from a known public key through something called Shor's algorithm. And the thing here is that Bitcoin is built on primarily SHA-256 cryptography, which has a lot of I really should be precise about this. SHA-256 is the hashing algorithm that we use for Bitcoin mining, but elliptic curve cryptography, sorry, is the cryptography that Bitcoin is based on, and this Shor's algorithm has a mechanism theoretically of being able to take the public key, which is available in many types of Bitcoin addresses and is always available if you spend your Bitcoin from an address. Um, it's able to then go find the private key, which means it can move any funds attached to that address wherever they would like, presumably to their own wallet, for example. Yeah, I don't know if you need me to go into like the public key, private key thing, but yeah, the private key is what you use to sign your transactions and actually lets you move your Bitcoin, and the public key is what people send Bitcoin to effectively. Um, so the thing with it is that quantum computing has the potential to break this down, but it requires massive amounts of resources. Computing power is really the wrong word. The quantum computers that are required to do this, they don't exist yet. The theoretical amount of it's called qubits, which is the equivalent to the bits in a computer, ones and zeros, but their ability to act on them in a quantum fashion. That they would need something like 10,000 of them, and I think the largest one that's been made now is in the range of 5 to 10 or something like this, and it's not even fully reliable, right? So the thing is, the number of qubits required to do this quantum action keeps going down. Theoretically, people working on this stuff keep on reducing the number that they think is going to be needed. All the while, people working to build quantum computers keep getting better, and more money and more funding and all this. Um, the whole thing with it is that I'm not convinced that quantum is ever going to materialize properly. There's even some philosophical angles that folks like Jeff Booth even talk about, where it's like if quantum computing actually could work, the world as we know it would make no sense effectively, and so that's kind of a proof that quantum shouldn't be able to work. I'm not sure where I stand on all that. Being realistic about it, quantum might become an issue in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Uh, Even if it never materializes, the way of calculating risk is likelihood times impact. So likelihood, this should be straightforward enough. How likely is it for something bad to happen? And the impact is how bad is it, right? Stubbing your toe is high likelihood but low impact. Getting hit by lightning is low likelihood but very high impact, right? So quantum computing is one of these things where the likelihood is extremely hard to gauge. We don't know how likely it is it's going to happen. If you're thinking in terms of time scales, the further along the line you look, the higher the likelihood gets, I guess. And the criticality or the impact is massive. Everyone loses their Bitcoin by the end of it. So we really should do something. But the thing is, not everyone is vulnerable. First of all, um, the the big thing sort of talked about when discussing quantum is that Satoshi's coins are at risk, and that's true uh, because they use a type of a public key that a type of address that was effectively just the public key. So we know all the public keys. They can go and try and derive the private key. Um, but the thing is, it's not like he's got like 2 million Bitcoin in one address. They're in 50 Bitcoin chunks, right? And every single one of those addresses has a unique private key, a different private key, and they have to do that quantum operation on every single address in order to get them. Now, 50 Bitcoin, yeah, okay, that of course that's a lot, but it does mean that if there is a quantum computer that's able to do this, it's not like they're going to be able to like this is expensive. It's energy intensive. It requires energy and resources and money. So it's not like they'd be able to just turn on the quantum computer and instantly uh, grab all of the vulnerable Bitcoin. And the other good thing is there's a rate limiter on Bitcoin, right? The new block every 10 minutes kind of thing makes it so that Bitcoin is naturally a little bit resilient. There's some time to move your coins. Um, and the common address types used today, especially SegWit, are already not quantum proof, but they don't show the public key until you spend from that address. So this is a kind of a key thing here. An actual best practice is never reuse a Bitcoin address. As soon as you spend from that address, never use it again, and move the remainder to a different change address, et cetera, et cetera. Like just never use that same address again. There are many reasons to do that. Privacy is one of them, but quantum security is the other. So that keeps you from being vulnerable until you go to spend it. And then an attacker has 10 minutes approximately to beat you to it effectively. But so recap a little bit. Super low likelihood. Maybe it never even happens, but it's so critical that we really should do something to prepare for it. And post quantum cryptography, there are some great people who are working on this, multiple proposals at the moment. One major downside to most of these post quantum cryptography systems is that they tend to be larger, as in they take more per transaction, more space. So that gets into some issues of do we have enough throughput in the current Bitcoin block size to be able to accommodate these larger transactions? There's some difficulties here we're going to have to navigate, but good people are working on it, and all I would say is that you don't have to be worried about this right now, especially just do this. Don't reuse addresses. Uh, I also say don't use Taproot, and it's yeah, Taproot has privacy benefits, some privacy benefits. If you're doing things like multi-sig or things like this, they all just kind of look the same, um, but it's quantum vulnerable. So my recommendations are use SegWit, never reuse an address, and just be aware of what's going on in the network, the space, and move your coins to a quantum safe address when the time comes, when fees are low, so that you don't get caught in a panic if it does happen that the elliptic curve cryptography is broken by quantum computing. Personally, frankly, I don't think it's ever going to happen, but could be wrong, and that's why we prepare.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there couldn't really be a better person to get advice for on this particular subject. I mean, yeah, that is very interesting, but yeah, it's all about that kind of risk assessment, whether it's gonna happen. But of course, it's always better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly, and I'll definitely say there are other people who know more about the quantum thing specifically, but from my perspective, in terms of how to analyze risk, that's my process. And again, like everything else, don't trust, verify, do your own research. If you'd like to outsource some of your research to me, my recommendation is do the things I mentioned and just stay aware.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, you come from a world, industrial kind of control systems, where security failure isn't an inconvenience. It's a refinery exploding or a power grid going dark. So, what does that world kind of teach you about Bitcoin that people who only come from finance or crypto side completely miss?
Sure. Well, the most important difference with all of those types of systems is that they absolutely have to keep running. That's the entire game. Uh, those systems, if they go down, there's some consequence in the real world, and we don't want that. A pipeline goes down, you suddenly don't have a whole ton of energy moving in to the place that it should, right? If say an electrical power plant goes down, same thing. Factory goes down, something that was valuable that was being produced, that's no longer going out to the shelves. I mean, everywhere you go, there'll be some factory producing the food you eat, right? This stuff is all critical. It's all important for everyday life. So the availability of the system is the most important thing. Now, that's superseded a little bit by something that doesn't happen in the Bitcoin world, and that's safety. And I really don't think that there is a place where Bitcoin's that there's a safety implication for Bitcoin, as in when something goes wrong in Bitcoin, people aren't likely to get injured or die. Maybe you could contort yourself into some scenarios of that if someone loses access to their Bitcoin and they can't pay something, but that's secondary effects. So safety is the primary thing. If one of these systems has a major problem, shutting down safely so that people don't die is the most important thing. But keeping them running otherwise is the thing, and that's the same for Bitcoin. Contrast that to sort of the more traditional world or finance or something like this. The thing you most want to keep control of is the confidentiality of your information. You do not want your, say, email password leaked. You don't want your bank credentials leaked, right? Because then the bad guys can do bad things, and yeah, not good. And that's what traditional cybersecurity is built around. It's called the CIA triad, and no relation to the United States agency, but confidentiality, integrity, availability. So I talked about confidentiality and availability. Integrity is related kind of to the confidentiality, but it's its own pillar. It means things don't get tampered with. And so if your account gets hacked, your X account or your email or whatever, and they change the password, they've tampered with it, and then they might go use it to try to scam people or get your funds, take your information, whatever it is. And so that's an integrity violation. Confidentiality and integrity tend to go together a little bit. And the availability side of things is kind of the secondary pillar in terms of traditional cybersecurity. But keeping the system running, that's the most important thing in critical infrastructure, and that's the most important thing when it comes to Bitcoin. And so everything I talk about in defending Bitcoin is from the angle of making sure that the availability of the system is working. Now, the exception here is that your personal Bitcoin, you are making sure that your private key stays confidential. That's the entire thing. If your Bitcoin private key gets leaked, consider your Bitcoin gone, right? And so there's an entire side of personal Bitcoin security that's all about keeping your private key safe, keeping yourself private, right? And confidentiality of your own information. I highly recommend, by the way, Max Hillerbrand's book, The Praxeology of Privacy, for a really, really good deep dive in what privacy means and how to put it into practice. The chapter 8, the privacy chapter in Defending Bitcoin is, I borrowed a fair bit from Max's book. So yeah, I highly recommend that one for personal privacy practices. But then everything to do with the network is about keeping it running, keeping everything running smoothly. The risks to that, the primary players there are the nodes, the miners, the development, the governance structures. So I've tackled pretty much everything where I can think of that relates to how the system keeps running, and I hope it's educational. I think it's something that many Bitcoiners might not be so aware of, the dynamics of these things. They're deep topics. The best book that I'm aware of that tackles some of these things in terms of a development angle is Bitcoin Development Philosophy by Kalle Rosenbaum. Highly recommend that book. I read that as well in the run up to Defending Bitcoin. Highly recommend as well. But it's a technical book kind of for developers. So Defending Bitcoin is meant for someone who doesn't know all the technical details ahead of time, and I try to explain it in an accessible way. Well, yeah, I think I've done a pretty good job there, and you can then jump off and learn more about the parts that interest you most.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'd advise everyone to do that, and I think it's great what you're doing, and it's interesting because you've got kind of a different sort of perspective than most people in Bitcoin. I mean, you even said in your book that Bitcoin is both better off and worse off than people think, which is obviously very different from the usual, Bitcoin's perfect and couldn't ever fail hype that we kind of get everywhere. So why was it really important to you to be so honest about the weaknesses instead of just cheerleading?
Sure. Well, yeah, anything but honesty means that we're sticking our head in the sand. There's a term thrown around, anti-fragility. That Bitcoin has this anti-fragility property, but some people on X in real life too, who sort of say that, hey, yeah, Bitcoin is anti-fragile. We're gonna get through this, no matter what, as if it's just something that just happens. But that's not true. It's the actions of Bitcoiners that makes Bitcoin anti-fragile, and so there's always something you can do in every domain of whether it's security. You can think about Bitcoin from many different angles. This is mine. This is what I'm able to contribute to the space. And I mean, in one sense, I sort of don't know why I didn't realize earlier that this was something I could contribute. At the same time, I think it's good that I spent a while in the space. I'm no OG, but I'm not arriving on the scene totally fresh and saying I'm here to fix Bitcoin. You're welcome. This is something that I spent months on and spent a long time thinking about, and it's my contribution. And I hope that people reading Defending Bitcoin see it as a way to empower themselves to defend what should be the way out of the fiat system. And for those of us who have really taken the orange pill, that's what it is. It's the way out of these oppressive systems that run the world, the money printing, the increasing nation state surveillance, these wars that none of us ever sign up for, right? Bitcoin is a way out of that system, and I really, really, truly believe that. And I mean, even these sort of low-level development things like these forks and things like this, like the only reason I'm involved with it at all is because I don't want this project to fail. And calling out where I see that there are failings or I'm not implying that anything is on behalf of individuals that are in the Bitcoin ecosystem, anything is malicious. I'm not implying that at all, but people do view the world from their own lenses, and I do think the development community in Bitcoin is out of touch from the people who are adopting Bitcoin just to save their money, just to store their value and have a medium of exchange that can't get censored, right? And so, yeah, I'm not calling people out to be mean or to be unfair. I'm trying to be honest. I'm trying to be balanced, and if we as a community can acknowledge some things are maybe not being done in an ideal way, and we can work towards improving that and improving the robustness of Bitcoin, it's just going to increase the chances of this project succeeding and making life better in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years for the next generation and onwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is really important to emphasize maybe the negative points of Bitcoin because, I mean, when you start ignoring the downsides, that's when the really bad sides start to kind of kick in. When you ignore what's actually going on and just kind of pretend it's all perfect and rainbows and everything, that's when the bad stuff really starts to properly creep in.
Yeah, like I mean, there's a few examples here. Mining decentralization is another one of these things that maybe this might have been actually a better answer to your earlier question. That what people underestimate. There's one mining pool right now, Foundry, that has over 30% of the hash rate, 35%, something like this, and the thing is that's not necessarily through anything malicious. Individual miners who have control of ASICs are choosing to mine with Foundry for various reasons. But it does mean that this one actor has about a third of the hash power of the entire network, and they control it. They make the block template that all of the miners hash against. And if you add the next 2, 3 mining pools in terms of size, they're over 60%, right? And so you theoretically could have these few companies who control more of the majority of the hash rate all get together and say that, hey, we're not going to make blocks that include transactions from these addresses, for example, the censorship, actual censorship, or they might say something like, yeah, we're just going to make sure that we win all the blocks from now on, and we'll reorg the chain so that nobody else wins any blocks anymore. And that's what's possible with a 51% attack. It's expensive and takes it has to be sustained as well, but and would also cause major issues for the Bitcoin price, I think. And so the one of the devil's advocates against mine decentralization being too big of an issue is that miners don't want to see their cash flow dry up and their rational actors and things like this. But yeah, this is probably the structural thing that's the biggest issue with Bitcoin right now, and decentralizing mining so that miners are building their own blocks and no one pool has the ability to undertake these attacks. It's really important. And well, again, to a kind of one of these things with the BIP 110 fork and all this, if that fails, I do see a lot of the efforts towards mining decentralization might also, if not leave the network, have a lot of people who are not super happy, and they might leave active Bitcoin contribution, and that wouldn't be good either. And so, yeah, it's just another one of these things where I see less of a disruption, less of an impact, more positives out of BIP 110 succeeding. But at the end of the day, that mining decentralization and making mining as decentralized as possible is one of these things that is pretty important these days, and it is something that I think is very good for Bitcoiners to know about and do what you can. I mean, I have a couple of Bitcoin heaters here, which I think is yeah, um, it's something. It's not a ton of hash rate, but these days you can also rent hash power through various marketplaces that miners just make their hash available to whoever is willing to pay them the most. And if you point that towards a pool that lets you mine your own blocks, then you're decentralizing the network yourself. So again, there's always something you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very key point. There is always something you can do, no matter kind of what situation or what negative uh, things are happening in the Bitcoin space. There's always something you can do, whether or not you can fully stop the whole thing. There's always hope to be a part of something bigger to help the whole community.
Yeah, I mean, individuals need to take action. There's only so much you can do, but there's always something you can do. So that's really the message that I hope everyone takes away from defending Bitcoin is that yeah, in every aspect it might be small, but there's always some action that you can take that you haven't thought of yet. And uh, I mean, everyone's got to make their own determination when they're done, right? The security controls cost money, they cost time, they cost effort. So there is a point where the costs outweigh the benefits, and so you have to make your own choice yourself. But there is always something on the table that you can do. No one ever exhausts the security controls. And in terms of Bitcoin, it's also about how important is it to you, right? If you have only a little bit of Bitcoin and maybe you're just trying it out, yeah, you don't need to go and do everything that I'm recommending. But if you have a significant portion of your wealth in Bitcoin, seriously consider what you can do. Run a node, um, try to get into some mining, be involved in governance discussions, things like this. Be aware of what's going on with quantum. Um, yeah, there's a lot you can do, and
Yeah.
it all comes down to how important it is for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But what about the kind of human side of security, like all the scams, phishing, people getting socially engineered out of their coins? I mean, obviously, younger people, we're all online. I mean, everyone's really online, and obviously, people get DMs from fake support accounts like all the time. I mean, from your cybersecurity background, what are the psychological tricks attackers usually use, and how do we kind of train ourselves to spot them?
Yeah, what's going on these days? I mean, there's a ton of these attacks going on right now to try and get access to people's social media accounts and their funds. Um, the biggest thing is that there's usually some kind of sense of urgency, right? That they want whether it's a negative or a positive one, something like this. Um, a negative is like, hey, you get an email from Ledger support or hardware wallet support. I don't want to be that much of a but Ledger's had some issues. You get an email that says, hey, your funds might be at risk. Click this link, and we'll get it all sorted out. Right? Just don't
Yeah.
do it. Verify that it came from the right email address. That's always a thing. There's going to be something wrong with the email address that won't be coming from ledger.com. Also, don't click any random links. Try to go to their website from some other way, and they'll probably have a big banner of, hey, there's some issue. Go here for steps to solve the problem if there was actually something legitimate. But that wouldn't be the case in Bitcoin. No one is ever, your funds aren't at risk unless you click this link. That's only the case if you keep your Bitcoin, say, on an exchange. Then maybe there's something to it. But yeah, don't click the link is
Yeah.
one of the things. But if you get a message from somebody you don't really know who's got a public platform, and they're asking for a call or whatever, um, or especially if you know them personally, right? Try to try to verify through another channel that this is actually them, right? And some people have had their accounts hacked, their real account, and people don't know about it, right? And so you get a message, hey, it's been a while, let's catch up, right? Um, that can seem really normal and not out of the ordinary. But if it's something you weren't expecting, try to get a hold of them on another channel and see if they can verify that. Oh yeah, that was me. I just it's been a while. But most likely, if they're sending you a calendar, a scheduler invitation to get on a Zoom call,
Yeah.
probably this is not anything good. If you do get into the Zoom call, if you do get into the Zoom call, do not click the link that they send you in the middle of the Zoom call. That's what gets you. I've had plenty of these requests. I've never gotten into the call in the first place. In fact, I like to have a little fun with them. They're mostly from North Korea. They might all be from North Korea, actually. The ones that are going around right now. Not all. I'm not saying all scams are, but this current wave might all be from North Korea. And yeah, I've gotten Grok to make some nice insults for me to their dear leader that I've pasted into the chat and gotten instantly blocked for. Um, I'm not saying do that, but it can be fun. But don't get into the call in the first place. Like really try to verify that this is someone something real, and if it isn't, block them, report them, and spread the word if it's someone you know and care about, because it's never fun to get hacked and you feel terrible if someone else falls for it from your profile. So help keep that from spreading. So those are the big things. Just watch out for anyone trying to get you to click a link or especially get on these days, get on a video call. Just don't do it. Verify through another channel.
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, there's also the physical side, the kind of real life, like the $5 wrench attack, like where someone kind of threatens you for your keys. Like, how much should a normal person actually think about the physical security versus kind of digital? Are we like overthinking the hackers and underthinking the guys at the door?
Yeah, well, very good point. And this is where privacy comes in. There's two aspects to privacy: knowing that you hold Bitcoin or crypto because they don't care, and everyone who's kind of public about Bitcoin has kind of already made that mistake, so that's not ideal. But then they need to know where you are, where you live, where you spend lots of time. Some countries are safer than others. France is terrible at the moment because they had the information of a bunch of their crypto holders was effectively stolen and sold, so that's not good from their tax authorities. Sweden is also not a great place to be at the moment. There are a lot of these gangs operating that target Bitcoin holders, crypto holders. Mostly, honestly though, like crypto is a little more attractive than just Bitcoin. So right now that we have that going for us, kind of being Bitcoin only is a security control if you're not involved in all of these kind of high profile communities and hold a bunch of ETH and whatever other tokens and stuff. Bitcoin only might be less attractive. Um, but yeah, just try and keep your information off the internet if you can. Full names, addresses, whatever. LinkedIn and Facebook are terrible for privacy. Try to lock those down if you can. Like these are ones where you're showing your full name by default, right? Try to lock those down as you can. Make it so that there's not that people who you don't know can't see everything about you, especially your location. Don't use your real name on X or your full name, whatever. Again, plenty of people have kind of already made those mistakes. But whatever, if you're public in Bitcoin and kind of throwing it all in there, that's a choice, right? But then just try and keep everything else private. Try and make it so that your home address, the places you frequent aren't something that are widely known, and then that reduces the risk significantly. But another analogy I like to use is something like if you're being chased by a bear, you don't need to be faster than the bear. You need to be faster than the slowest person. in your group, right? So they are going to target people with a lot more Bitcoin verifiably than people who just have a couple of million sats or whatever it is. Even a couple of coins is not going to be so attractive as someone who has 10 Bitcoin, 20 Bitcoin, 100 Bitcoin. So it's not that don't worry and don't be prepared, but they're not coming after you yet. Then again, situational awareness, being able to defend yourself if someone does come for you, that's stuff that's worth knowing about and knowing how to do. But it's not the thing that should be top of everyone's minds. You definitely don't need to be looking around every corner for some attacker, unless you're just really bad about your privacy. Then you might have to worry, and then you maybe should move.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's all about just if you keep private in the first place, you're just low risk basically. So even if you do have loads of coins, I mean, they're not going to know.
No, they won't be able to find you.
Yeah.
That's the point. Again, highly recommend Max Hillebrandt's Praxeology of Privacy if you really want to deep dive. My chapter 8 goes into this somewhat, but check out Max's book also.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to kind of where you've been recently in Twitter. I mean, you've obviously been you've been in the middle of one of the biggest arguments in Bitcoin lately. And of course, your position in your own words is obviously Bitcoin is money, not data storage. I mean, you've said block space is scarce and arbitrary data displaces money transactions, which makes Bitcoin worse as money. So, can you break that down for someone who basically has no idea what the fight is even about?
Yeah, there's so much nuance and complexity here. I'll really do my best to break it down. The basic idea is that arbitrary data, which I define as if you're putting data into a Bitcoin transaction that isn't helping to move Bitcoin from one address to another, that's arbitrary data. That's putting something onto Bitcoin that has nothing to do with uh, using Bitcoin as money, right? And there have been a lot of different protocols that use this over the years. Open timestamps is a really common one that some people are actually pretty pro the use of this. It creates a hash of a bit of data, and then you can put that hash onto Bitcoin, and then you essentially prove that the data you had actually existed at that time. There's uses for that, but it's not monetary. It doesn't improve. It doesn't help facilitate Bitcoin as money. It's using Bitcoin's block space for other things. So my argument and others who are, yeah, similar mind, uh, argue that these uses of Bitcoin actively make Bitcoin less good at being money. And to explain my take on this, uh, from the cybersecurity perspective, what I was talking about with availability, the availability of the system also extends to how well the system is working. It's not just on or off. So if the performance of the system is degraded, that also counts as effectively an availability attack. And when these arbitrary data systems were kind of in a bit of a frenzy in 2023, 2024, it really kicked off February 2023. And there's a great website called WTF happened in February 2023. I forget if it's Feb or February 2023, but anyway, check it out for some information about this. It's a parallel to WTF happened in 1971, which you might be familiar with. But the whole thing there is that the fees on Bitcoin were astronomically high. You would have to spend 50 euros, dollars, whatever currency to move to make any Bitcoin transaction. So unless you're moving thousands of euros or dollars, it's going to be way too expensive. It's going to be more expensive than moving money in the normal system, right? And this was all because of only people trying to put JPEGs and tokens and things like this on Bitcoin through these data protocols. And so the thing with that is that yes, these systems aren't these arbitrary data things. They spend money to get into Bitcoin block space, and that's true. The fee is sort of what prevents them from kind of having unlimited resources to do this, right? Eventually they'll lose money theoretically. But the point is they're making it worse for everyone else as long as they're doing that. Every non-monetary transaction has a different set of incentives when applied to Bitcoin than people who just want to send their sats to self-custody or send it to someone to make a purchase, right? So whenever there are full blocks and those full blocks contain arbitrary data transactions, they are making Bitcoin more expensive to use for everyone else. And I've started to describe it as a bit of a hidden tax on Bitcoin for monetary uses by the protocol supporting arbitrary data in a more explicit way. And maybe to bring this a little bit to the BIP110 thing here, this argument, the solution offered by BIP110 is not perfect. It's not stop data soft fork, it's reduce data temporary soft fork. And it applies a few protocol changes that effectively make it so that you can't embed data in chunks of more than 256 bytes. Now you can embed more than one of these chunks, but it does create some friction, it creates some limits, and it does mean that the protocol is saying that, hey, okay, we're not going to just let you embed a 4 megabyte JPEG without doing a little bit of extra work and paying a little bit more. So from my perspective, BIP110 is quite reasonable from that angle. There are some trade-offs, and that's another thing that I get into in defending Bitcoin all the time, that there are trade-offs to every security measure. And here, this is where there is some genuine debate. Does BIP110 plan to, or will it break things, too many things? The answer is maybe. There are some things that will get broken or need some development work, and as unfortunate as that is, like it is a trade-off, right? I argue that it's a reasonable trade-off, that setting constraints on what is possible in Bitcoin development is actually a good thing. It makes it so that Bitcoin development doesn't get out of hand, and that we don't lose control of the system to people who find some newfangled way of using Bitcoin block space and making it so that people who just want to use Bitcoin as money, that it makes it harder, right? So that's my entire argument this entire time, is just that it makes Bitcoin less good at being a monetary system, and maybe it's worth putting some changes into the protocol at a consensus level to at least reduce the ease by which people can embed arbitrary data. Now you can disagree that that's necessary, but I really do think that it's hard to justify Bitcoin being worth anything if it's not money. And Bitcoin, this deterministic decentralized database is one thing I've heard it described as something like this, like a time-stamped database, something like this. That just doesn't have any appeal to me. That has no interest to me. And maybe there's people in the development community who find that fascinating. But I'm in Bitcoin for the money, and I'm in Bitcoin for fixing the money and fixing the world. So that's why I've been vocal on my stance here. I haven't been the most active cheerleader for BIP110, say. I've gone back and forth a little bit on whether to support or not actively, but I've always been aligned with its goals, and I've always found its trade-offs to be reasonable, even if I don't think the BIP is perfect. So I, again, say make your own decisions, but my view is that it's the best outcome for Bitcoin at the moment would be for BIP110 to activate smoothly, and then there's a year where we observe the effects of that and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an interesting take, and I mostly do agree, because I don't see the appeal, and I find it very hard to kind of sympathize with slowing down, basically slowing down and making everything more expensive for everyone. I don't see many positives to that, and there I feel like the argument for doing it is extremely weak.
Mm. Well, and I'll be clear too that it's impossible to stop data embedding on Bitcoin entirely, and
Yeah,
we need to be honest about that. That is also true, um, and some of the means of embedding arbitrary data are more harmful by other metrics. There are ways of embedding data that use fake public keys, which create a UTXO, which every node has to hold in uh, relatively quick storage. I've been corrected on this by one of the developers who has been working on UTXO management and the initial download with in Bitcoin Core. Um, and maybe this is a spot where I can say that there's really good work being done by people at Bitcoin Core, good developers, good work to solve problems in a technical way, and I don't discount any of that work at all. And I think it's very good to make technical improvements. And it, again, there's sort of a funny contradiction in ideas. If we're solving this UTXO problem through a technical means to make it so that you can download a a Bitcoin, you can start up a Bitcoin node faster, even if we have a growing UTXO set, then why is it so big of a problem for data embedding to happen with UTXOs? And there's other things. There's a lot of back and forth to be had here. But the point is, 2 points. We can't stop arbitrary data on Bitcoin, and the development community is really doing fantastic things for Bitcoin. Where I just see is again kind of back to the disconnect that the Bitcoin development community might not be taking into full consideration the economic effects of Bitcoin in the world and the preferences of their user base. I was on a panel at Bitcoin Plus Plus in Vienna with Chris from Cedor and Matt Corallo and Knut and sorry, one other guy. I keep forgetting his name. My apologies. Um, the the but Matt Corallo is a core developer and he put forward and agreed that 99% of Bitcoin users just want to take Bitcoin into self custody and use it to pay for stuff. Like all of the use cases that people are trying to develop are for a really small minority of users, right? And so I really do believe that optimizing the Bitcoin protocol for making it easier to take self custody and use as a daily medium of exchange are the priorities. And I just see Bitcoin development aiming at other things, aiming for extensible scripting and other things that have resulted in unintended consequences, like with the Taproot situation. So this is just where I advocate that maybe the Bitcoin network as a whole, the plebs, the node runners, whatever, make their voice heard and say, I don't care about any of that other stuff. I just want Bitcoin as money, and let's work on making it better money, please. But we don't need to turn Bitcoin into a crypto casino. And again, my last caveat to this is just that we can't stop it, but we can set some limits. And maybe it's not going to be even like super effective at reducing spam, but at least we've kind of taken a stand, and the limits are real. The limits are real. It means that data can't be embedded in contiguous chunks, which is really important to a large percentage of the user base. So that's the situation. It's complicated. It's tricky. It's messy, but I hope that there's a good resolution and we are able to come out of this in the next months and focus on Bitcoin adoption. I'm very excited to be getting back to that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure it's going to come out great solution. It's all going to be positive. I'm hoping that happens. But yeah, it's an interesting time to be involved in Bitcoin and very it's almost surreal. But yeah, I mean, and especially I find it kind of interesting from your end with the whole cybersecurity, looking at it through that lens. I mean, you've said obviously you viewed spam on Bitcoin as a bug and a vulnerability since 2023. So that's not just something like you're kind of annoyed by. It's proper, like it needs to stop. And why does the kind of security mindset lead you to see it as a genuine threat rather than just harmless graffiti on the blockchain?
Yeah, well, it comes back to that availability angle, right? And the other point is that the current wave of arbitrary data is basically exploiting these two specific vulnerabilities. And I maintain, and I make the case in defending Bitcoin that it's just simply good cybersecurity practice to acknowledge that these are vulnerabilities. It's the same thing as just being honest about everything. We don't put our it's not good to put your head in the sand, right? And the definition of a security vulnerability really is that there is some weakness that a threat actor could exploit. That's what creates the threat. The vulnerability exists and is being actively exploited. Now, what is the impact of that exploit? Well, it's not huge, and I mean I admit that freely. Arbitrary data is not something that is catastrophic to Bitcoin. It's not existential, but I do think that we might have lost quite a bit of adoption in that 2023 2024 when people were hearing that oh yeah, Bitcoin costs $50 to transact now, right? I mean, the Bitcoin price was pretty disappointing to a lot of people over the last few years worth of cycles. Who knows what adoption we lost through arbitrary data being in a frenzy, right? So it's complicated, but by the cybersecurity definition, these things are vulnerabilities. They deserve to be vulnerabilities, and if certain core developers argue that these aren't vulnerabilities and they shouldn't be considered vulnerabilities, I really do go out and say that, hey, I don't think you're doing good cybersecurity practice, and I say that as an industry professional, and at least listen and acknowledge that this is something that exists, and you can choose to simply accept the risk. That's an option. Bitcoin Core has largely accepted these vulnerabilities and these risks that come from them as being okay. But if you ignore that the risk exists altogether, you deny it, that you deny that this is a vulnerability, that this is a risk. To me, that is just sticking your head in the sand and ignoring something real. And the consequences of that have been hard to predict, largely on the social layer. And I don't think anyone saw that coming. So ignoring risk is bad. That's my bottom line there.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And it was, as I was saying earlier, ignoring that risk leads to worse consequences later on down the road.
Exactly. So I think where I would that's what I would most leave people with is that try to be vigilant, and eyes wide open. This isn't something you have to be scared about all the time. It's not like being aware of cybersecurity is something that you have to keep in your mind constantly, but it's basically just a consequence of existing on the internet. And so holding Bitcoin and existing with Bitcoin is the same thing. You just really should be aware of this stuff so that if something goes wrong or you see something that isn't right, you can notice and you can take some action. And that's all it's about. And I will also say that I'm planning on making a lot of resources available on defendingbitcoin.com for free to map this stuff out and make most of the information just available, widely available. If you want to support me, buy a copy of my book, but otherwise, the information is there for you and it's supposed to be. So that's what I want to contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, everyone watching, go buy Luke's book. I mean, yeah, it's definitely necessary, especially for the future generations. I mean, these threats are going to be a lot more prevalent in the future, and if, of course, even for your child. I mean, you became a dad a couple of years ago. I mean, does having a kid change kind of how you think about Bitcoin? Like, obviously, the whole low time preference building for the future, of course, for him. What kind of world are you trying to actually give your child?
Well, it didn't change a ton in terms of my thinking exactly, but it definitely made everything more real. And I mean, yeah, I'm huge fan of having kids, and yeah, if you can, make sure that you're bringing them into a world that you would like to live in, and I mean that on a local level, right? It's not good to have instability or chaos in your home life, your personal life. It's good to have the right partner, right? And yeah, so my thinking didn't change a ton, but it made it all a lot more real, a lot more focused. To a certain extent, my life is simpler now, in that I have a lot of constraints. Like I have to, not have to, but yeah, I'm not available when I'm taking care of him, right? Putting him down to bed, this sort of thing, and that's great because I love doing that. I love that time. And so, yeah, life is simpler, and all of this is a little more real. But my thinking with Bitcoin hasn't changed at all. It's just maybe a little more focused. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, I think what a lot of the younger generations and my generation would want to know is how can you, between, being a dad, between the book, the podcast, the publishing company, the conferences, how do you not burn out? What's your kind of actual approach to energy, focus, and staying healthy while doing that much? Because obviously, my generation talks a lot more about kind of burnouts and especially emotional burnout. I think we'd kind of genuinely learn from hearing how you manage it.
Finding the right motivation. That's all. That's all it's been about for me. And I mean, some of the voices that really helped me when I was an early adult were Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, Jocko Willink. I don't know if you've heard of him, Navy SEAL guy who wrote a couple of great books on leadership and discipline. Jordan Peterson was the big one for me. Really helped to focus me in terms of what, in general, people are aiming for. What makes us tick? What does meaning really look like? I did a series with Robert Breedlove on Jordan Peterson's book Maps of Meaning, and to a certain extent that was like a chapter closing for me because I found Bitcoin through Rob mentioning Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning on the Lex Friedman podcast, and then a few years later I'm talking about that topic with Rob Breedlove, and that's just another one of those things of just keep saying yes, but find what drives you, find something important, find something worth doing. When I'm idle, it's to relax and unwind, listening to music or spending time with family or whatever it is. It's relaxing is important too. You need to do that, but that's all to kind of recharge and figure out what I can do next. And yeah, the juggle is hard. Sometimes now I have to say no to things. Now I have to say no to things and learn to do that too. The contradictory advice will be say yes to everything until it becomes too much, something like that. And then when you have the good problem to have of too many things to say yes to, focus on what's a priority for you and what helps you build your best life. Focus on the things you're best at too, because in this world of AI and so much competition, you being the best you that you can be is the most value you can give to everyone in the world. If it doesn't matter if there's someone out there who's better at podcasting or better at music or whatever it is, it's still better for you to spend your time doing the things that you're best at, because you can save them time. There was a way of looking at this, like the best person in the world. So okay, say that Elon Musk is also just an amazing chef. Like he can cook meals extremely well, like better than anyone in the whole world. On top of being, a nuclear scientist and blah blah blah, Tesla. It's a better use of time for someone whose best thing is being a really amazing chef, making all of his meals for him, so that he can focus his time on those things that he's best at. It's division of labor, and basically being as good as you can be at the things that you're best at is the best way for you to contribute to the world. And I mean that sort of objectively. Like it's how humanity can optimize itself, is by helping everyone to find the thing that they're best at, the niche. So find the thing that motivates you, and find the thing that you enjoy that provides value to others. Because maybe the biggest fallacy that I heard when I was kind of in school, and that I've heard people talk about, is that just go to school for what you like, what you love, what your passion is, whatever. But if that isn't something that other people find valuable, you're not going to be able to make a living, and you're not going to be able to enjoy life in the same kind of way as this. Very, very few struggling artists actually make it, and so find a way to provide value to others, and then you can eventually afford to structure your life in a way that you can do the things that you love, or maybe you find a way to enjoy the things that you do to provide value to others. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's also one of the easiest ways you can get into Bitcoin, is finding your passion and keep working at it until you're good at it, and then bring it into Bitcoin, because it's a new enough space that not every kind of different hobby is kind of filled.
Sure, yeah, and everyone has something to contribute, exactly.
Yeah.
And there are ways to bring people to all walks of life. So do what you can do, and not every company needs to be a Bitcoin company, or not every individual effort needs to be a Bitcoin effort. But if you provide goods and services to anyone, accept Bitcoin for those goods and services. That's the easiest thing you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. Okay, now we're going to go into a kind of quick fire question round.
Sounds good.
Okay, all right. First question: Bitcoin in one word.
Hope.
Fiat in one word.
Evil.
Favorite chapter of your book that you wrote?
11. Arbitrary data.
Okay. Most underrated Bitcoiner on Twitter right now?
Oh, that's a hard one. Underrated. I am on with so many people. Hunter Beast, Crypto Quick. Really like it.
Awesome. Okay. Most overrated narrative in Bitcoin right now?
Bitcoin treasury companies.
Yeah. If you could orange pill one celebrity overnight, who would it be?
Oh yeah, I've had this question before. Who would I go with now? Well, celebrity. Christopher Nolan would be cool, because we have all these people talking about like this Odyssey movie and stuff, and think he's the best director ever. And I think yeah, that would be cool to maybe solve some of these woke stuff in Hollywood. He'd be pretty powerful there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Finish this sentence. Fiat ruins,
Everything,
Bitcoin fixes.
everything.
There we go. Lovely. Thank you very much. And now we're going to get on to the section that I said about earlier. Um, so I'm going to ask you kind of the famous question. I ask everyone this question. And Luke, could you give me one bit of information about you, about Bitcoin, about anything that is just unknown to my audience and your audience?
Uh, so I thought about this for a bit. I played a 10-minute metal song in a church, and not a Christian metal song, when I was still an evangelical Christian, because I wanted to be cool and edgy. It was Sadness and Hate by Winter Sun. And I did it solo, just me singing and playing guitar, and nobody liked it except my now wife. She was
Was there any recording of it?
no, thankfully.
No. Oh, we could have seen it, but yeah. Well, thank you. That's an awesome answer. Incredible. Thank you so much for coming on Orange Pill Order. I mean, honestly, this has been a really eye-opening episode. And where can people find you? Where can people find the book and basically everything that you're building?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Well, I'm my name everywhere, which is a bad security practice, but it is what it is. Luke the Wolf on X, LinkedIn. I'm primal.net/Luke also, so I've got that Noster domain space taken up there. You can find everything about Defending Bitcoin at defendingbitcoin.com. You can also find everything about me from that address. So defendingbitcoin.com is probably the easiest place. So Thomas, thanks a lot for having me. This has been a fun conversation, and
Yeah.
good luck with everything you're doing as well. This is a really fantastic initiative to reach out to people of your age group and, well, everyone, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely great episode. Of course, we'll put all of your links down in the description below. If you're watching on YouTube, smash the subscribe button. Obviously, if you're listening on Spotify, give a 5-star rating. It helps with the algorithm, helps push it out to more people, and basically anyone who kind of needs it. If this episode opened your eyes even a little bit, just share it to someone, share it to a friend, share it to your brother. I mean, that is really how we orange pill the world, one person at a time. Remember, of course, our mission is to orange pill every young person on the planet. Stack sats, stack knowledge, stack freedom, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Orange Pill Order.